Hello guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another video. So yes guys, as promised, I'm giving you my reaction to the Big Ed explosive telephone call. If you've yet to hear the telephone call, please make sure you listen to that before you listen to this video because it will give you some idea of context. So I'm going to be breaking down and analysing the telephone call and looking at what it tells us about Big Ed and discussing whether he should still be on the TLC franchise 90 Day Fiance. I know a lot of you don't think so. Just before I begin, please if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the channel, make eBird a happy eBird, and also please don't forget to click the like button. Right, so without further ado, here's my reaction to the Big Ed and Liz telephone call. So for any of you out there who don't know who Big Ed is, lucky freaking you, I wish I didn't know who Big Ed was. As God is my witness, the world was a better place when nobody knew who Big Ed was. Now Big Ed has never usually given a good account of himself. He's always seemed extremely egocentric, self-centered, narcissistic, mean, you name it, he is it. But what I've heard today absolutely takes the biscuit. But before we get into that, I want to say a massive thank you to two of my subscribers. The first person is called Anastasia Agiros. I hope I've pronounced that right. If I haven't, massive apologies. And the second person is Barbara. Both of these subscribers alerted me to the presence of this audio. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Because your girl was going to take a day off and not do any more content until Saturday, so I would have completely missed this. Now, as you guys know, I've never really liked Big Ed. I've been working tirelessly to bring Big Ed down. It's been my daily medicine, my weekly energy, my monthly inspiration, and my yearly motivation. But I've got a feeling I'm going to be able to rest easily now, because I think Ed's done it all by himself. Guys, this audio is freaking explosive. I couldn't believe it. So when I first listened to it, honestly guys, it made me sick to my stomach. I felt that Ed spoke to Liz in such a derogatory and demeaning way. And I don't think anybody deserves that. And ladies and gentlemen, we're witnessing here today male privilege and misogyny. This is enforced by gaslighting and control, and also a little soupçon of willful ignorance. And Ed's got a despicable entitlement to the prioritisation of his own interests and his interests alone. And on top of this, Ed's got an unrealistic expectation of deference from women. But he seems to think that they're in some way answerable to him. They're not. Guys, we're witnessing misogyny at its finest. So let's pick it all apart. I'm going to start with a quick recap of the phone call. When we first come onto the phone call, Ed is telling Liz that they're done, they're finished, and Liz is saying but why? And Ed helpfully explains to her that it's because she rang and asked him if it was okay for her to take one of her colleagues home to another city. So in other words, she was just dropping somebody off after work. And she rang Ed and asked him. Ed said yes at the time, and he also apparently said, which we heard in the tape as well, which you might have just caught in the audio as well, he actually said, oh, you're such a kind-hearted person for thinking to do that. So she's obviously gone and taken this person. And then Ed has blown up her phone saying we're finished, F you, and so on, because he's now thought about it and he doesn't like the idea that his girlfriend is taking some other person home after work. And this is what the whole argument is about. On top of that, Ed refuses to let Liz speak, so she can't actually get her side of the story out. Although to me that's meaningless because she doesn't have a side of the story. She's just basically giving someone a lift home. And Ed keeps gaslighting her, saying, if you can't see that this was a disrespectful thing to do to me, that's mad. You're effing crazy. But on that minor point, we can both agree, Ed. You're right, she's effing crazy to be entertaining your bullshit. So right at the start of the video, Ed's saying, I will always love you, but I can't be with you. And it's at this point, guys, that the phone call should have freaking finished. It should have been a 40-second phone call because Liz should have simply said, Ed, I've enjoyed our time together. Lie. And it's a shame it has to end. Bigger lie. But I guess it just is what it is. It's nice to have known you. And that should have ended there. Liz, how did this happen? How did you get into a relationship where the person was scared to even ask you out? The person was thinking, oh my God, she's a goddess. She's beautiful and she's so intelligent. How did it get from that to your colleague asking you for a lift home and you having to run your movements past Big Ed? How did it even get to that point? I mean, the truth be told, let's roll it back a little bit further. How did it even get to the point where you were dating him? I don't believe for a second that you didn't see how he treated Rose. So the warning signs should have been there. I'm not saying it doesn't mean give somebody a fair chance, but as soon as he started to go rogue, you should have said, I've seen this before somewhere. Oh yeah, before the 90 days, season 4, episodes 1 through 19. Liz, didn't you read Big Ed's reviews on Yelp? You should have done. Ed's been allowed to get away with this for far too long. When he spoke out of the side of his mouth at the last tell-all to Rose, he should have been closed down by Sean Robinson. He should have been closed down by the other cast members. Yet Ed is so good at manipulating people and doing his fake performative cry that people stood to one side and let him completely talk over Rose. She was unable to get anything out because he kept just bickering and badgering as she spoke, and we saw this again today with Liz. And people have been standing aside and letting him do it, and in fact he's being backed up by his friends saying poor Ed, by his mum saying poor Ed, by Tiffany being his little Rottweiler and going for these women as if they're the problem. No, Ed, it's you are the problem. And Ed lies to us ad nauseum. I've been single for 28 years. Ed, when you were with Rose, you said that you were single for 26 years. You haven't counted Rose as a relationship. How interesting. But Ed, if you have been standing on the very edge of the abyss for 28 years, the Ebird would like to help you take a step forward. Come on Ed, this way, just one more step. I'd like to help you fall right in. And so initially when Liz spoke to Ed about taking her friend home, he said, yeah, that's so nice. You're so kind-hearted. But then suddenly he's saying to her, that's so disrespectful, and the fact that you didn't know that makes you look stupid. It makes you look effing dumb. No Ed, it makes you look effing dumb. It makes you look dumb and jealous. Liz has the right to take her colleague home if she wants to. She shouldn't have to run it past you, except for if she was going out on a date with you and she was going to be late or something along those lines. But she shouldn't have to run normal movements past you. And I know I've been banging on about it all season, but there's a very sinister reason as to why Ed likes younger women. I'm going to flesh this out for you now. So Ed tells us he only likes younger women. The only reason I believe that Ed likes younger women is for the following reasons. 1, he can say things to them like, F you and you're effed in the head. He can be belligerently rude and disrespectful, and when you choose younger girls, the lack of relationship experience means they don't necessarily call out this kind of bad behaviour for what it is, manipulative and narcissistic. And we saw it very clearly on the tell-all of last week. Molly got Ed together real good, and also Debbie, Colt's mum, got Ed together. He can only really function with people half his age, otherwise he's unable to manipulate them. But we have to go back a little further because Ed's managed to get Liz into a situation where she feels it's even right or necessary to ask him if she can take someone home. It's your car, it's your body, it's your life. You don't need to ask Big Ed's permission for anything. And you have a level of subservience with younger women that you just wouldn't have with someone in their 40s or 50s. And then the third thing is his manipulation in the way that he speaks. I notice this a lot with Big Ed, and I haven't mentioned it before, but when he's speaking to people, depending on who it is, he's got a different way of talking to them. There's absolutely no way that Ed would speak as he does to someone like Tom Brooks, or even someone like Angela or Molly. He knows where and when he can use the tools at his disposal, and what he usually does is he talks over anyone's point. So once you get close to making a point or to scoring a point on Ed, Ed talks over the top of whatever you're saying, sometimes so belligerently that he just repeats the same sentence again and again. He did this with Lisa from Lisa and Usman at the season 4 tell-all. She was making a valid point about him and Rose, and he just went into overdrive, shouting at her and saying, it's disgusting that you're sleeping with somebody without a condom, completely unprotected. He raises his voice, he starts shouting, but he only does it with certain people. Very clearly in this instance, he knew he could do that with Liz. Liz was actually trying to get her point across, and she was saying, you won't let me speak, you won't let me speak. And every time she started to speak, he tried to talk over the top of her. But I will just have to say one thing, Liz, when you're in a heated argument and someone says, okay, speak then, say something, don't all of a sudden go, well, what I wanted to say was, because that gives somebody all the time in the world to jump back in with their point. Be ready with your point when you're asking for the floor. And so my final point about why Ed wants younger women is because he expects full ownership over another human being, over said woman. And we heard during the last season him moaning about Liz's priorities. Number 1 on her list is her daughter. Yeah, of course. Number 2 is her job. Well, she needs to eat and she needs to feed that daughter. Number 3 are her friends, and I'm number 4. Who knows? I think he's more than likely number 3. And I think he massively overplayed the relevance of her friends. And the reason I say that is because she said she's only just been allowed to have friends because of a last relationship. But we saw in the season when she was sitting having a drink with a guy friend from work, He went absolutely ballistic. Ed, if she was up to something, she wouldn't be in the place where she works, i.e. the same place where you know she'll be and the same place where, when you want to spy on her, you go to. So yeah, his want for an ownership of somebody is absolutely part of his raison d'etre. And also, just to add to this, look how he treats the children of the women he deals with. Now, we haven't seen a lot from Liz and Ed, but he did kick Liz out of the house, so I guess her daughter had to go as well, which is extremely bad behaviour for a child. But look at the dismissiveness that he showed to Prince. He couldn't have given two Fs about that little kid, and he looks so cute as well. Ed actually wants full ownership to the point where he wants to be number one above the person's child. That's not normal. I've actually ended a relationship with a guy years ago, and he had 2 kids, and he would always try and prioritise seeing me over seeing his kids. And guys, I looked at him and thought, wow, you are a despicable human being. This is not for me. Ed wouldn't mind that. In fact, Ed would probably push for that. And so what's my advice to Liz? Liz, this person is no good. You know he's no good. I know he's no good. And if I'm to be honest, I think Ed knows he's no good as well. Why did Ed say earlier, I always apologise to you. I'm done apologising. Ed, you only apologise when you know you've effed up. So you saying, I always apologise, tells me I always do shit wrong. Liz, going forward, don't get into relationships where you have to ask somebody to do a standard average thing. You're not asking, can I go on holiday for a week with a group of guys? You're asking to give someone a bloody lift home. 2, nobody deserves to be spoken to like that, and you should never accept it in any circumstance. If you know in your own mind that you've behaved honourably and that something isn't out of order, stick with that. Don't let somebody gaslight you or manipulate you or bully you into thinking that what you know to be right and what you know to be reasonable isn't. But guys, I'm not going in on Liz. I don't want to victim blame. As you go through life, you'll learn from each relationship, but please don't think this is anywhere near normal. So I want to conclude this video, as I often do, with Ed's bad points. The first thing that's disgusting about Ed is that he's got a vile mouth. So it's not just the fact that he was swearing a lot and being belligerent and talking over her, but the actual language he used. You're dumb, you're stupid, you're an idiot. And he's using this vile mouth to try and degrade Liz and to strip her of her dignity and to try and actually convince her that she is stupid. And the second thing is, he's got an entire lack of empathy. Someone needed to get home and they obviously didn't have a lift. And it was just 15 miles away, so that's one thing. Secondly, if she'd have decided, I'm going to say to this guy, no, I can't take you because I think my boyfriend would be mad, you're putting her in a situation that she doesn't want to be in. She's a nice girl. She doesn't want to be a biatch. So you've got a lack of empathy for Liz and you're forcing her to be inauthentic. And then the third thing is you're unbelievably manipulative. Performatively pretending to cry when it suits you, going off with sugar babies and posting it on social media. You do all of this in order to manipulate and discombobulate Liz. The fourth thing is, you're a goddamn liar. You first said to Liz, it's okay that she can take this guy home. And then, I know what happened. You started second guessing it and thinking, I wonder if she's cheating. I wonder if something's going on. Maybe she's not taking this person home. Maybe something else is going on. One of those little pearls of doubt got into your head, and instead of dealing with it yourself and instead of thinking, I'm being paranoid, I'm overthinking things, calm down, you decided to flip the whole thing onto her. I thoroughly believe you were fine with it in the first instance, and the more you thought of it, you got paranoid, and then you decided to turn it into, you should never have asked me, what was I supposed to say? Is that you want ownership of people. A normal person is happy that someone's got their own friends and their own life. A normal person doesn't want someone to completely and utterly submit to them. But if you need that, you need to start looking at yourself. Look inward. What is wrong with you? Look at yourself. And then also, Ed wants to put on a fake front. He tells us he's in therapy and he wants to be a better person. No, you don't. Oh my God. No, you don't. Ed, if you have got a therapist, which I don't necessarily believe, it's only because it's the only person you can find to listen to your bullshit. But usually when people say, I'm going into therapy, they know there's some work that needs to be done and it's on me. Ed, you're just going to therapy. So you can say to everyone, I'm in therapy, I've done things wrong, but I'm going to be a better person. Ed, no you're not. Again, you're manipulating. Yeah, so that's everything that I have. I don't think that Ed should be on TLC anymore. I think we can see what kind of character he is and what he's doing to people. TLC shouldn't put any other girls in harm's way. We need to make sure that Ed and everybody else knows that you cannot behave in this way and still be seen as a cuddly, lovable little rogue. Ed, you should be seen as the manipulative narcissist that you are. I'm not a massive fan of this whole cancel culture, but there is something called the consequences of your effing actions, and that is what Ed should be reaping now. Don't follow him on Twitter, Instagram, any social media, don't watch his videos. Withdraw support. So basically, Ed shouldn't be given any more of a platform to treat women the way he treats them. Guys, let me know what your thoughts are on this whole big Ed saga. And what would your advice be to Liz? Please put your comments down below, and I'll be back very soon with another video. Please don't forget to subscribe and to like, and if you know anyone else that you think would be interested in this video, please share the video on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever. And I'll be back very soon. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you good day.